Support material 7 is looking at starting a business. We're looking at this whole idea of entrepreneurship. Okay, so the learning outcomes here are quite specific. We need to define what an entrepreneur is. Okay, we need to describe business opportunity. Okay, we need to look at pitfalls, right? What outlay, content, or advantages do we have in terms of the business plan, and what sort of financing do we need to start the business? Okay, and obviously factors that will affect all small businesses. Right, so the first bit is, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur?
Someone takes risks.
Okay, so taking risk is key. What else?
It's all stress. That's a personal stuff.
What else? Define it. An entrepreneur is who?
I don't want to hear this word. It's someone who creates a business opportunity from nothing.
Okay, good. So an entrepreneur is looking at what? Solving problems. Okay, they're basically a problem solver. Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with Keith Kirsten, are you? Okay, but Keith Kirsten is a very, very famous gardener. Okay, he's got about, I think it's like 20, 30 odd years, okay, in the gardening industry. Okay, and Keith Kirsten, you probably see some of his like stores, Keith Kirsten gardens, like stores, like nurseries.
No.
Okay, but anyway, on 702 they were talking about, or they were interviewing Keith Kirsten in terms of his expertise in gardening. Okay, so what is he? He's an entrepreneur. He started a business in gardening, okay, and now it's become, I mean, a very successful industry. Okay, gardening, everyone needs some sort of gardening in terms of trees and plants and that sort of thing. So what is an entrepreneur? It's someone who creates an opportunity to solve problems, okay, to create value. Okay, so his value that he's creating is in the gardening industry. Okay, you get all sorts of other people. Okay, Steve Jobs, was he an entrepreneur? Yes, Steve Jobs started Apple. Okay, Apple was started in Steve Jobs' garage, okay, when he was still living at home, okay, with his mom and dad. Okay, so he started Apple. That was the start. Okay, I don't know if you've seen the film yet. Have you watched the film Apple? There's two films actually. There's the one called Jobs with Ashton Kutcher, and there's one called Steve Jobs with Michael Fassbender. There's two films looking at Steve Jobs' story, and obviously there's lots of documentaries. Yeah, but in terms of Hollywood films, there's two. Okay. So an entrepreneur is someone who recognizes an opportunity and creates a product or a service that will meet people's needs, okay, to create value. Okay, so if you've gone through the textbook, you would have seen they talk about this. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? Entrepreneurs need to have courage, okay? They need to do homework, and they have to have skills and knowledge, okay? In the textbook, they quote a figure of 3%. Right, only 3% of South Africans currently become entrepreneurs. Okay, why do you think that's so low? Do you need capital to start a business?
Yes, you do.
No, you don't. Okay, you don't always need capital to start a business. Right, you can loan capital, okay, or you can create value by offering something that doesn't require a lot of initial investment. Okay, so the main reason why so few people actually become entrepreneurs is why? It's because of this. Okay, people are scared, right, to start businesses. Right, the courage is probably the first step. Courage is the first step. Perhaps, okay, but that's the first step. The first step is just to do it, okay, to start the business. Okay, so when looking at South Africa, right, in terms of the numbers that we've got in terms of research, only 3% of South Africans actually become entrepreneurs. Okay, that probably is changing. Okay, I think in today's world, more and more people want to open their own businesses or to start their own businesses. Okay, and the reason for that is what? Financial independence. Yes, okay, so financial independence is doing what? Living independently and having enough finances to cover all your day-to-day expenses. Okay, so when looking at starting a business, what must we do? We need to brainstorm. Okay, we need to come up with ideas. Right, that's the first step. But once we've got ideas, we need to look at the ones that are feasible. Okay, so which ideas make sense? Which ideas will actually work? But there's no point having this brilliant idea and it's not feasible. Okay, so for example, we're going to start, I don't know, a hotel on Mars. Okay, let's say Mars is a holiday destination. Okay, you could spend your holiday on Mars. Okay, in reality, it's not feasible in today's world. Okay, because we haven't yet, okay, sent anyone to Mars. Okay, not to say it won't happen in the future, but currently, in terms of the idea, that wouldn't be feasible. Okay, it wouldn't make sense to do that today. Okay, because no one has gone to Mars yet. Okay, they are busy planning different trips. I think they've sent, or they want to send astronauts, but it's a one-way trip.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, yeah. All right, so you wouldn't do it. Well, it's like a crazy experience. I mean, think about it. You'd go into the history books. It's like Neil Armstrong. Everyone knows Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the moon. And Buzz Armstrong and those, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, okay, first guys to walk on the moon. Okay, so Buzz Aldrin, yeah, Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, yeah, those guys. Okay, they were part of, I think it was Apollo 11, I think. Okay, but anyway, that's some. Yeah, but he walked on the moon. He's got that famous, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Okay, that was his saying when he walked on the moon. Okay, so do you agree ideas need to be feasible? Okay, we can't think of ideas that aren't feasible. Okay, feasible means we should be able to implement or execute what we've thought about. Okay, a business opportunity is then what we need to look at. So if it is feasible, now we need to know, is there an opportunity to do business? Right, obviously business requires income, right, and income should be greater than expenses. If that's the case, you would then have an opportunity to create a business. Right, and then we need to obviously create a plan. Okay, a plan is a written document, okay, that's going to specify all the requirements that aren't going to have to be met to create the business. Right, then we look at this. Capital. Okay, so do we need capital? If we do, how much do we need? Okay, do we need to use debt or equity? Okay, do we need to take out loans or do we need to ask investors for capital? Okay, and then we finally start the business. Right, so what is an entrepreneur? Here's the definition. Okay, the textbook defines it as a person who takes risks and applies resources in such a way that products and services are rendered. Okay, so it's taking a risk. It's creating something for someone, and it's using resources to create it. Okay, so it could be a product or a service. So what qualities do you think an entrepreneur would have to possess?
Qualities, you must be that's in go-getter, person takes risks.
What else?
Let's be a leader at the end of the day.
What else?
Skill,
knowledge, good. What else?
I can't think of anything else.
Working with people?
I'm a people's person.
People skills, perhaps? Communication?
Technological.
Yeah, technology. Okay, so there's a lot. Okay, there's a lot of different qualities. Probably the biggest quality would be perseverance. Okay, because you're taking a risk. Okay.
And also people skills as well.
Definitely.
Because if you treat a person like rubbish, they won't come again.
Of course, yeah. Right, so entrepreneur, intrapreneur, and traditional manager. Those are three traditional ways of, let's say, inverted commas, having a job. Okay, so an entrepreneur would be someone who owns the business. Okay, an entrepreneur is when you're trying to create ideas within the business. Okay, so you're working for a company or a business, but you're creating or contributing new ideas. Okay, you're still being entrepreneurial. Okay, and then the last bit is a traditional manager. Okay, where you're controlling certain systems, you're looking at processes, you're achieving certain goals or tasks. Right, so as an individual, you generally lean, okay, to one of these. Okay, so what type of person are you? Are you more the entrepreneurial type, the entrepreneur, or the traditional manager? Okay, so you're more leaning towards this. Okay, so you're more the one being given tasks and then executing on those tasks. Okay, rather than thinking about generating something new in terms of being entrepreneurial or coming up with innovative ideas within the business. Okay, all right. So traditional managers are the ones that are there for oversight, supervision, okay, and obviously delegation. Okay, so managers delegate. Managers get other individuals to assist with achieving certain goals. Right. So think about being each of these positions. Okay, what would we consider? Okay, so I've given you categories here. Okay, these are some of the categories that are mentioned in the textbook. So I want you to think about each and every one of those roles. Okay, we now know what each of these are. Manager, entrepreneur. So I want you to tell me, what are the motives? What is the motive for an entrepreneur? What is the motive for a manager? What is the motive for an entrepreneur? Are the motives the same or are they different? Let's start with motives. What motive is a traditional manager going to have? Okay, so the task. Okay, yeah. What motivates? Okay, so a motive for being a traditional manager would be task orientated, perhaps. Okay, entrepreneur.
To make profits and run something that's.
Well, profit's not the right way of looking at it. What's the primary goal? Value. Okay, that's the motive. Entrepreneurs do things because they like doing those things. It's passion. Okay, so are you going to want to do something that you're not passionate about doing?
No.
Okay, so entrepreneurs start businesses in industries that they're passionate about. Okay, so Keith Kirsten, we spoke about him. Okay, he has the Kirsten nurseries and gardening. That's Kirsten's passion. Okay, he started a business in gardening. Okay, you get other people. Steve Jobs, very passionate about, okay, technology. Right, Bill Gates, very passionate about software. Yeah, so everyone has their own niche, okay, in terms of where do they create the most value? What are they most passionate about? Okay, entrepreneur, what's their motive? They're within the business, correct. So growing the company, maybe growth. Okay, seeing the company grow, okay, and being part of that growth. Right, time horizon. What time horizon would each of them have? Traditional manager?
Infinite time.
No.
Not infinite.
Time manager, traditional manager, time horizon would be more short term. Do you agree? Right, more short term because they're looking at what? Tasks. Alright, so are the employees doing what they're supposed to? If they're not, the manager's going to step in and correct it. Okay. What is the entrepreneur looking at? They're looking more long term. What are we going to achieve? Okay. Why are we doing what we're doing? Okay. Definitely. Correct, yeah. Right, activities, traditional managers, it's more day to day. Entrepreneurs, it's more managing the business as a whole. Okay, it's more holistic. Right, the entrepreneur needs to know what's happening throughout the business. Okay. Risk, who carries the most risk? Sure. Who carries the most risk?
The entrepreneur.
Definitely. And the least?
Entrepreneur.
The manager.
The manager.
Yeah, manager carries the least risk. Right, in terms of status.
Status. Being the manager, you've got status.
Being the manager, okay, you've got status within the organization, perhaps. Okay, you've got a nice title. Right. Entrepreneur, you own a business.
That's status.
Okay, that's something different. Okay. Decisions. What sort of decisions? How would they differ?
Decisions be day to day, and the other one would be to expand the business forward.
Correct. Okay, again, more long-term and short-term. Right, and then service. Obviously, the manager is serving who? Who's the manager serving?
His company works for.
The company. Who's the entrepreneur serving?
Everybody on the street.
Well, yes, they're a greater community in terms of the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur serving the people, basically, yeah. Okay, creating value for others. Right, the manager is serving the company, right, and hopefully the company will be serving the people, so it's indirect. Okay.
The company will be serving the people, yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. All right, so what advice would you give an individual who wants to quit their job and invest everything in a new business venture? What would you say? We're looking at entrepreneurial risk. What advice would you give them?
Invest half the amount he has.
Invest half. Okay, so
Don't all eggs in one basket.
okay, good. So yeah, so don't. That's good. So diversify. What else? What else? Should they consider creating a business plan?
Yeah, business plan.
Think about finance, where to raise it,
And the banks.
how to manage it, how to grow the business. Okay, there's a lot. You could look at the format of the business plan. Okay, we need to look at different areas of the business. Product or service. What's our target market? Okay, what's our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Okay, where are we going to raise capital? Where are we going to operate? Okay, how are we going to manage the business? Are we going to manage marketing ourselves? Are we going to give that to someone else? Okay, how do we manage HR? Who are we going to employ? What contracts do we need to draw up? What business documentation do we need? Okay, contracts need to be drawn up by lawyers perhaps. Okay, so what risks would an entrepreneur face? Biggest risk is what?
Bankruptcy.
Well, possibly, yeah. Default risk, maybe. What else?
His name as well.
Okay, possible reputational risk. What else?
Not to do anything else.
Financial risk?
That's bankruptcy.
Well, that's default. Yeah.
Like we don't succeed.
Okay. All right. So the risks facing the entrepreneur is what? Business risk, right?
Yeah, business risk, yeah.
Okay. All right. There are infinite business opportunities. Can you think of some examples? So many people start businesses in so many different areas. Can you think of a few? We mentioned one or two not so long ago. Can you think of some?
You mentioned Microsoft and Apple.
Okay, yeah. But what about like a blog? Can you make a living writing a blog? Hey?
Not really.
Yes, you can. Content. Yeah. Yes, okay, content. So a writer can create a blog. If the blog gets enough readers, that's a business. Okay, online marketing. Okay, social media. Right, some people have jobs, i.e. they run businesses where social media is key. Okay, Facebook and Twitter, tweeting. Right, so celebrities get paid to tweet. Okay, why? Because they have lots and lots of followers. Okay, so a company might say, well, we want to bring out a new product. Okay, we'll pay you for tweeting about the product. Okay, because you're a celebrity and you've got 1 million people following you. Okay, so they're willing to pay for your tweet because 1 million people will be reading your tweet. Okay, and that's social media. There's so many business opportunities everywhere. Okay, you can start a business in anything. Okay. Right, so sometimes people start by looking at family businesses. Okay, so you might have mom or dad having started a business and automatically their children take over the business. That's a possibility. Okay, family businesses. Okay, there are advantages and disadvantages. Okay, obviously advantage would be the family owns the business, yeah, so control is within the family. Okay, disadvantage would be what? Sometimes it's difficult to mix family and business. Okay, it might create friction or problems between family members. Okay, and then there's also a note about JSE. Okay, there are very successful family businesses on the JSE. Think about De Beers. Okay, what do they do? Mining, correct. Think about Rembrandt. Okay, and Rupert. Okay, Johann Rupert.
What does Rembrandt do?
Luxury goods, Rupert. Okay. What's it? Is it Rembrandt? Yeah, Rembrandt. Luxury goods. Okay. Let's think about the Ackermans. No. Ackermans? Pick and Pay. Yeah, Pick and Pay. Okay. Okay. Okay, yeah. All right. So forms of business ownership, there's several. So there's sole proprietors, partnerships, CCs, and companies. Yes. Okay. So I've given you a list of advantages and disadvantages for each of them. Okay. Sole proprietors, the easiest, the cheapest to start. You have full control and you have decision making. Okay. There's not so many legal requirements as well. Disadvantages though, unlimited liability, limited resources, and succession planning is a problem. Okay, because you're the business. Okay. Partnership, more skills and resources. Relatively easy to start, not so many legal requirements. Okay. Disadvantage, still unlimited liability, management and control. There might be disputes and disagreements. And also, succession planning is a problem. Right. Closed corporations, they were discontinued from 2011. Okay. So we can't create a CC today, but the existing ones will continue to operate. Okay. CCs are actually similar to private and public companies. Okay. Advantages for a company, lots of resources. Okay, limited liability. It's a separate legal entity. So there is succession. Okay, those companies will continue long after the employees have changed. Okay. Correct, same thing. Alright, so what is a business plan, Robert? Or what is a plan?
Well, it's something you plan for your goal. I think it's your goals and what you aim to get at the end of the day.
Correct. Okay, so a business plan is how do we achieve what we want to achieve. Good. Yes. Okay, so a business plan is important because it's a roadmap. Okay, a business needs to know what the business is going to be trying to achieve. Okay, and the business plan should identify the steps that need to be taken. Okay, so what are the reasons for drawing up a business plan? There's several. Right, being organized. Okay, having tasks. Right, having goals. Right, having a time frame. Okay, how much resources do we need to contribute? What marketing are we going to have to do? Okay. Alright, so here's a note about the business plan in terms of format. Okay, a business plan that's very good should have all of these different topics being covered in the business plan. It should cover an executive summary. Okay, so sometimes they talk about the elevator speech. Have you heard that before?
Elevator speech? No, I haven't.
You haven't? Okay, an elevator speech is basically, so how long does it take you to travel from, let's say, top of a building to bottom of the building? Average building. Takes around 60 seconds. About a minute. Okay, depending on how many floors you've got. It might be less, maybe even 30, not minutes, seconds. 60 seconds. Okay, or even 30 seconds. Right, so the elevator speech is basically that. It's can you sell your idea to someone in 30 or 60 seconds? Okay, so what does the business do? What's the core of the business? Okay, that's the elevator speech. That's the executive summary. So if someone asks you, what are you doing? Okay, you should be able to express what you're doing in 30 to 60 seconds. Okay. Good business plan should have a table of contents. There should be personal information, business details, the mission or vision, product or service, who's the target market, what's the industry, what's the forecast, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, obviously the more detailed the business plan, the better, because if you've got the idea on paper, hopefully you'll be able to then create that in reality. Okay, so the banks also need it good for taking out loans, 100%. Right, and what is the primary goal? Always. What is the primary goal? Maximizing wealth for owners over the long term. Okay, creating value. Right, all businesses that start create value. Okay, and over time they become profitable. Okay. Right, yeah. So forms of financing, we need to look at suitability. Okay, which is better? Do we take out loans? Do we use our own capital? Okay, what sort of control do you have? Well, if I sell shares in my business, I'm giving someone else control. Okay. Right, then we've got a note about starting a business. So what must we consider? Obviously, location. How are we going to register the business? Do we need any business documents? Okay. Do we need insurance? Are we going to employ staff? Right, what legal issues or matters do we need to consider? Okay, what advice or tips can we get from business advisors? Okay, what succession planning do we have? So what happens after having started the business? How do we grow? How do we create something that will last forever? Okay, and obviously day-to-day management of the business. Right, businesses are obviously created to grow. Okay, so once businesses start, they should be focusing on growing, okay, expanding. There should be a strategy to increase the size of the business. Okay, and obviously businesses that start small have the ability to grow very large. Okay, so Apple, best example I can give you. Okay, Steve Jobs starting Apple in his garage, okay, at home, and now Apple becoming this massive worldwide company, everywhere. Okay, global. Right, and that's the end of that chapter. Okay, all right, so that's starting a business. Right, the next chapter is buying a business, which is slightly different. So before we look at buying a business, I want to quickly show you one or two things here. Okay, so you said you need capital to start a business, right? Okay, so no money to start a business, no problem. There are 5 options that you could consider. Okay, so if you ever think that you need capital to start a business, you don't. Okay, there are ways to create a business without requiring much capital. Okay, so let's watch this video and let's see how we would achieve that. Okay, I just want to turn up the volume quickly. Okay.
No money to start a business? No problem. Try these 5 options. You might be limited to a strict budget when you want to start a business, but that doesn't mean you don't have options. It's possible to start a business with very little money if you have the right combination of skills, work ethic, and marketing know-how. Follow these simple guidelines to start a business when you have little to no money. 1. Make something. What you decide to make is up to you, but there are several places you can sell your handmade options online. Abe's Market deals in natural and organic goods, such as lotions, candles, granola, and more. Etsy is one of the largest online markets for almost anything homemade, from jewelry to wooden toys for kids. Bonanza is another growing handmade marketplace similar to Etsy and boasts over 10 million visits per month. eBay is one of the biggest online e-commerce marketplaces in the world, and its customizable listing options make it a great choice for selling your items. 2. Resell something. If you don't want to make anything, you can grow a large business just by reselling already made products. This can be done through a variety of channels. Drop shipping. Set up an online store and partner with drop shipping companies that will do the order fulfillment for you. Online e-commerce platform Shopify has a great drop shipping guide. Thrift stores and garage sales. If you know where to look, you can find items at thrift stores, flea markets, and garage sales and resell them online or in your local community. 3. Sell your services. One way to start a business with little to no startup capital is to sell your services instead of a physical product. There's a huge variety of services you can offer depending on your background and interests. You'll need a branding plan to make sure your name and company gets in front of the people who need the service. Some places that are free for promoting your services include Fiverr, Craigslist, Elance, and Skillshare. It's also useful to have a website to show examples of your work, list your experience, and blog about your industry. 4. Barter to get what you need. It's hard to start a business without any funds at all. Even creating a freelance writing business utilizing Elance and a free WordPress website will still require a computer to work on as well as internet access. However, there are ways to get what you need without money. For instance, if you find yourself in need of a used laptop, try to barter for it. Build a new website for a used electronics supplier or offer babysitting services to your neighbor for their old MacBook. 5. Utilize low-cost services. Use sites like Fiverr or Elance to advertise your products and services and build up your company. For instance, many designers offer $5 to $25 logo designs. Sort by reviews and look at past examples to find a designer or service provider that matches your style. This is a great way to get branding materials, printed items, or other needed items without much cost. For additional savings, be sure to look for coupon codes on sites such as Retail Me Not. Starting a business requires ingenuity and a passion for what you're doing. Once you find yourself doing something you enjoy, you'll be more likely to find ways to make it all come together.
Okay, so that's a note. See, you don't need capital to start a business. Okay, there are options, there's ways and means, okay, to create a business. Okay, Elance, all these other online type of scenarios. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to show you that is in today's world, it's easier to start a business than ever before. Okay, back in the past, you probably needed bricks and mortar. Okay, you needed to have something, let's say, tangible, right, as a shop. Okay, so in the past, you would have a shop, maybe a bakery or something similar, and people would then come to your store. Okay, or let's say in the past, maybe like we're thinking like really old school. Let's say like during the medieval time, like a blacksmith. Okay, blacksmith just takes metal and converts it into weapons. Okay, a doctor offering medical services. A baker offering baking, okay, bread and so on. All right, so that's one of the videos. The next one I want to show you, okay, besides this, we'll get there just now. Okay, let's look at this one. Steve Jobs' inspiring speech. This is the most important lesson of all, okay, from Steve Jobs. Okay, we know Steve Jobs obviously has passed, okay, but during his lifetime, he's obviously done a lot. He's achieved a lot. Probably one of the most let's say, important individuals of all time that have changed the way we do things in today's world. Okay, so let's listen to Steve Jobs' inspiring speech.
I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, But it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about it. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer-animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Maureen and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle.
Okay, and that's Steve Jobs' actual speech. Okay, that's his most inspiring speech. Okay, key message, don't settle. Okay, keep pursuing and looking for that love. Okay, that love of doing something. Okay, whatever it is, technology, software, whatever. Okay, people find their passion, okay, when they do what they enjoy. Okay. You got fired from Apple. I don't know, have you, let me quickly show you this.
I think you applied for the job, his place is company started or something.
Corporate is cutthroat. So Steve Jobs was fired by the CEO that he employed to run Apple. All right, and that's the story. So if you watch the Jobs film, there's two. There's one that was old in 2013. I want to see if I can find the trailer for you, and let's show that. Movie clip trailers. Right, there we go. This is the older film about Steve Jobs' life. I've seen this one. I haven't seen the newer one.
That's 2013 one.
Yes, this one.
Apple's got more money in their bank account than the Treasury in America has.
Correct. Yeah. Governments in today's world are very, very highly indebted. So companies are actually very, very powerful because companies have the actual liquidity. Okay. Right. So this is the film from 2013, Jobs. Okay. You can probably even maybe box office this or watch it somehow, but it's actually really good. I haven't seen the newer version of it, Steve Jobs. But this one was good.
Steve, it takes guts to drop out like you did.
Higher education comes at the expense of experience.
Boss!
What are you working on?
It's a computer terminal that hooks up to the TV for the display. Steve?
Wow.
These are state of the art. Nobody's making anything like this. All right, okay.
Welcome to Apple Computer. Is this everything? Startup.
I think we should start with around 90 grand.
Could you repeat that?
If you'll have me aboard.
Trust me, I'm my INDEPENDENT.
Apple Incorporated went public this morning.
Chasing dreams since I was 14. Can't stop me.
We gotta make the small things
Unforgettable.
Typeface isn't a pressing issue.
Get out. He's trying to start a war with IBM. Steve's been doing the impossible ever since he was in a garage.
I'm trying to build an Apple, and they're taking it away from me.
If you keep heading down this path, I will not protect you. It's a blatant ripoff.
I'm gonna sue you for every cent!
You are your own worst enemy.
The board is unanimous. Steve will no longer be involved in this company.
10 years after Steve Jobs' departure, the future of Apple Computer is in jeopardy.
In life, you only get to do so many things.
We're gonna make Apple cool again.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
If we're going to do this thing, we need to come up with a name. Apple. That is so much better than phaser beam computers.
Okay. Yeah, that's the trailer for Apple, which was the more outdated film. Obviously, the newer film was in 2015. It was last year. It was called Steve Jobs. Yeah, Steve Jobs. Okay, let me show you this one as well. Okay, this is a more updated version of the film. I haven't seen this one yet, but I want it. It's on the to-do list. I think this you might be able to buy DVD, Blu-ray now, maybe even box office. I know Jobs, it's quite an old film, 2013, but this one was last year, 2015, came out last year. It was in the Cinema Nouveau, wasn't mainstream Hollywood.
I think when I mentioned it with a bank account, I read that somewhere that more wealth and more bank money than the US Treasury.
Apple, yeah, Apple is very, very powerful because of their cash flow, yes. Okay. As a company, very powerful company.
It is.
Okay.
What do you do? You're not an engineer. You're not a designer. You can't put a hammer to a nail. I built the circuit board. The graphical interface was stolen. So how come 10 times in a day, I read Steve Jobs as a genius? What do you do?
Musicians play their instruments. I play the orchestra. I hear you've been worse than usual this morning. I didn't think that was possible.
It's a system error.
Fix it. Fix it?
Yeah.
We're not a pit crew at Daytona. This can't be fixed in seconds.
You didn't have seconds. You had 3 weeks. The universe was created in a third of that time.
Well, someday you'll have to tell us how you did it.
I'm begging you to manage expectations out there.
You see how this reminds you of a friendly face? It's warm and it's playful and inviting and it needs to say hello.
If you keep alienating people for no reason, there's going to be no one left for it to say hello to.
Your Apple stock was worth $441 million, while your daughter and her mother are on welfare.
She's not my daughter!
You must be able to see that she looks like you.
You're issuing contradictory instructions. You're insubordinate. You make people miserable.
Even if that were true, doesn't sound that diabolical to me.
We've spoken to the fire marshal and the building manager. They're going to come in and tell everyone to leave.
If a fire causes a stampede to the unmarked exits, it'll have been well worth it for those who survive.
The board believes you're no longer necessary to this company.
I sat in a garage and invented the future because artists lead and hacks ask for a show of hands.
You're gonna end me, aren't you?
You're being ridiculous. I'm gonna sit center court and watch you do it yourself.
Make everything all right with Lisa. Fix it!
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
All right, yeah, so that's the newer film that they've made. Okay.